update me from the last time that I was here. I left you with a memorandum where I outlined some concerns, and you were going to take that to the attorney. I believe that's what you had said at the time.
Correct. Yep.
Anything to share?
Someone is here, he's already.
Might not look like it right now, but that's me.
Okay.
Yep, Tyler, in fact, has a used dealer. License rather, he can store vehicles on his property. So, that being said, he is exempt from the licensing requirement that the town would be obligated
Which licensing is that?
motor vehicle dealer license. It's the principal place of business of any motor vehicle dealer registered with the Director of Motor Vehicles under RSA 261-104 and controlled under RSA 236-126. That's exempts him from the junkyard license that we have to.
Is that the town council's opinion as well?
It is. And I'll, if you want, Mr. Patch, to go through some of the points you've raised in your memo and give you my thoughts on them. And
That's
then a couple places where you may have questions. I may have questions for
Yeah.
for you, just to try to get to the right answer in the end. I
Just
imagine that's what you
one point of order here. When I applied for the slot to talk to you folks tonight, I indicated that I had 4 questions. There is a 5th question that I have as well. I don't really intend to talk a lot about any of what's in that dossier. I believe there's a lot of factual information in there that I would have been very interested in the due diligence that the town council provided, which may be what you were just alluding to, your perspective on the points. But before we get into that, I wanted to determine if there's any potential conflicts of interest for Hastings, given the abutter property belonging to Hastings and Hastings. So can you represent, in your fiduciary capacity, the town, and if this goes to certain junctures beyond this discussion tonight into more legalities, and the contamination issue surfaces to the point where Hastings feels like their interests need to be represented separate from the town, have you considered any of those as potential conflicts for you in the future?
I did, only briefly, because I saw in your memo that that was raised as, I think, your 3rd or 4th question in this. So I think you did raise it in there, so I did think about it in that capacity. Obviously, Hastings and Hastings is a completely separate entity than the Hastings Law Office. And so there's no inherent conflict because it's Hastings and it's Hastings Law Office. Obviously, it's a family that's been in the Freiburg area for, well, a heck of a long time. We have a dispute with one other law firm in Maine as to whether we're the oldest law firm in the entire state. And so, because they're separate entities, and one is essentially a real estate holding type company that has absolutely nothing to do with Hastings Law Office. So there's no conflict there. If Hastings and Hastings had a dispute with the town of Chatham because they felt that they were an aggrieved party or an abutter, as you've alluded to just now, there wouldn't be a legal conflict, because I've never represented Hastings and Hastings. There could, of course, be a business conflict, and I may politely tell the town of Chatham, sorry, I can't represent you against Hastings and Hastings. But the fact that that exists out there and the potential doesn't stop me from advising them now.
That's all right.
Or else I
I
wouldn't-
just wanted to establish that because those pivot points in the future are going to be important, possibly. In the business that I was in, passing the laugh test on conflict of interest was something that our business paid very close attention to, which I'm sure Hastings Law Firm does as well, given your brand that you've established in the Valley in support of all the regional communities. So I wouldn't feel like I was understanding completely what your responses were and where you might be coming from if I didn't clarify that.
Sure.
Okay?
Understood.
All right.
So I don't know if I'll just kind of go through.
Well, what
to the extent
I
you're-
really wanted to do, honestly, because I'm not sure how deep that's going to get us into the grass, and I want to make sure that I can get to my 4 questions. If you have comments around those, could you provide them? Also, I just wanted to make an opening statement prior to getting to those questions. Is that fair?
Please proceed.
Okay. So I just wanted to start off by, we all know Chatham's changing. I know I've been in here talking to the selectmen a number of times about the changes taking place. We're sitting on a $107 million valuation town. That's a considerable enterprise, as you all know. But we're still operating on essentially a shoestring budget. 85% of the town's budget goes to the schools, as we know, which leaves you a very slim margin to operate the town. And as we talk about, as I come in and spoke about master planning at one point, and the possibility of future petitioned articles to go on to the town meeting agenda, and I gave you a list of what all those could be. Just one of those issues would essentially eat up the $10,000 budget that is currently a line item budget for legal services for the town right now. So I want to make sure that you understand that I may be the one that's bringing you this issue, and I have spent a lot of time putting that dossier together. But at the end of the day, I could move out of this town tomorrow, and if I did, I don't believe this issue is going to go away. It's not going to go away from a visible standpoint because all those dead oak trees along the road are going to continue to shed all their limbs. Eventually, they'll probably have to be cut down. So those get to aesthetic concerns that I have, which has to do with the bowl and all the vehicles that I look at every day that I go up and down my driveway. And I didn't really come to Chatham for that experience, and I don't think Chatham's established that way. When I look at the master plan specifies protection of water sources and just the aesthetic values that the town presents. So I wanted you to keep that in mind as I go through this. I'm not here tonight to argue, but I believe that Chatham is sitting on a liability that you may not realize it 2 years down the road, but if it did occur that contamination came off of this site and eventually went in the direction of the groundwater flow into the Kimball Pond Basin area and watershed, that won't be discovered for years in the actual watershed. However, when it is discovered, that becomes such a big problem to solve and such an expensive problem to solve. I'm bringing it to your attention now. It does affect me personally because I'm an abutter to the property. I have standing in terms of what the statutes say in New Hampshire about junkyards and about the accumulation of cars, and it does not matter whether you have a retail license or not. Those aren't the way the statutes are written. So if I get more specific in the questions, I will ask Jason a very specific question on his position. This is what he's stating, so that it can go on the record. But I don't feel that that's a good leg to stand on. Secondly, if you look at what my complaints are, they have to do with what was taking place on that site and how quickly that site changed its complexion. When the tax card assessment was done in the last period, I covered this in the dossier report, there was all indications that nothing was there, possibly except that it was acknowledged as a repair business. I don't know what would be recorded now, and it probably doesn't matter, But my point is that site has changed dramatically over a relatively short period of time. And I got to the point where I started looking into it, and this isn't a personal vendetta between me and Tyler for his business. This is something that has precedent all the way up to the Supreme Court. Precedent cases, they're very clear. I'll direct Jason, if he so desires me to the very specifics of those as they're relevant to this case, so that you will be able to understand the liabilities that I think that I understand. And I still am a resident of Chatham at the end of the day, and I don't want this liability hanging over the town, and I don't think that you do either. So, in the June 2nd report, I provided what I call an off-ramp, a step-by-step administrative cure for this situation, so that it would not have to go beyond a local solution. If that doesn't work, though, the aperture gets opened much more broadly. We already have established associations with Kimball Lake Shores, very, very concerned about where they have, where they felt that their water supplies have been threatened in the past. There are other abutters to this property. There are regulatory agencies. Because Tyler's property borders Maine and New Hampshire, this makes it an interstate waterway issue. And that brings in not just regional EPA, but it also brings in more at a headquarters level as well. So I think as this gets out more broadly, what's going to happen is more and more people are going to become aware of it. It's going to leave your control, and it's also going to put pressure on the town's pocketbook because of those interests. And we've seen it in other towns, and I'll stop there. And if you have a question, that's fine, but I'm ready to just go into the questions that I have for the town that I specified in the report. Also, I'm going to leave you with an addendum to that as a follow-up with more of this statutory case history, so you can further take a look at that. Again, my intent is not to put Tyler Cox out of business. My intent, though, is that if he's going to have a business and needs to run according to the regulations, just like every other business would have to run. And these regulations that we're talking about are statutory regulations. The town is the one that's in the driver's seat on enforcement of this, irregardless of the fact that you don't have zoning. That doesn't matter. I think what you're going to find out is that 2 or more vehicles that meet specific criteria constitutes a junkyard in the state of New Hampshire. Okay?
Jason, do you have any response to that?
Well, so what Mr. Patch has asked for, and I suppose I will attempt to honor his request, and I can obviously give the town attorney-client privileged information offline. Obviously, some of the stuff I tell any client of mine is privileged. But Mr. Patch, you've got questions, and I believe it's from page 9 of your dossier, as you
That's
call it.
correct.
And so the first one is the board formally stating for the public record that they are choosing not to abate a documented public nuisance located in an interstate watershed. And so that I can't answer because that's up to the board to say whether they're doing that or not. However, with regards to the statutes, 236.
Do you mind if I ask the board these questions? I want to establish that I'm asking the board them if they consult you as a town council. I think it would be fair for you to weigh in. If they want to completely pass it over to you, I just need them to say that.
I mean, if I'll interject. If you want to answer that question, you can. If you say we're not prepared to answer that question because we want to get more legal advice, then you don't have to answer that question. And then, I'm not to pull the rug out from under your question.
I understand.
So that's up to the board, whether you feel comfortable answering the question.
Fellows, what do you think?
I would just assume that Mr. Dennis fields the questions. at this time.
Right.
So what I would say for the record, Mr. Patch, and to the board, is that after this meeting, once I've been in person with you to hear more specifics about what you've got to say in addition to your document, then I can have what's essentially a non-meeting with the client, which doesn't have, it's not a non-public session, it's a non-meeting under the New Hampshire laws, and I can talk privately with them and put a memo together that can be made into then a public document for everybody in town to see if they want, on what ultimately with my legal advice, it's my legal advice, but ultimately the board's official position, and that can more definitively answer your questions. If the board is okay with that, and you're okay with that, Mr. Patch, then that's what I would.
The only concern I have is a timeline. So I would like to keep this moving along. I think from the time of my initial submission on May 7th to the follow-up on June 2nd to the scheduling of this meeting, there's been a lot of time to delve into this for all parties. I essentially felt like I didn't want to put all the burden on the town as far as researching all this. I'd like to have thought that I was giving you a good starting point with the dossier. At the end of the day, that's the same dossier that I would hand over to the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services, as well as the Maine Environmental Services Group, as well as other interested parties as they get drawn into this. So I feel that there's a lot of information on there. As long as we can keep this process moving along, I would like to make sure that in our discussion, Jason, as a separate from this, that we talk about the potential option of a consent decree type of an agreement approach, and whether that's appropriate and what triggers if it's not appropriate now, that you need to see met to go in that direction. But that is me offering up a way that doesn't have to delve into compliance and escalation and going into what I understand is maybe a part of your forte, which is negotiations and settlements outside of a legal framework. Does that sound fair?
That would work for me if it would work for the town.
Yep.
I can advise, but I'm never the one that makes the decision in the end, specifically.
Okay.
But that's would be an approach that would seem to work for me. I mean, obviously, I guess what I would say is, I don't know who the signatories to a consent decree would be, because if it was you and Mr. Cox and the board, for example, that wouldn't necessarily actually absolve the town of the liability.
Actually, yeah, I agree with you.
If they have that liability that you say that they do,
If they do.
there's nothing that you could
supposedly.
sign
Right,
that would protect them.
exactly. I have an opportunity to stand down on moving forward myself. If I felt like we were going in a direction that was going to result in a solution that would be beneficial for Tyler, it would satisfy my requirements, and we could do it outside of a legal process, I'm all in favor of that. So we just wanted to be clear about that. And I wanted to mention it now because if we get into a separate discussion, I don't know how things translate always, and I wanted to, have full disclosure to the selectmen and to whoever's attending here that that's my intent.
Well, I would be remiss without giving Tyler a chance to speak. Tyler, do you have anything you would like to add?
I guess what exactly is your problem, or what is your solution to all that?
Yeah, Tyler, I don't want to get into the details of that in a discussion with you.
Why not just keep it simple? Just tell me what do you need from me?
You must have some ideas. You've been spouting for 10 minutes here.
That's possible that I do have some ideas. I've shared them with the
let's hear 'em.
town.
I mean, you say you don't have a personal vendetta, but it seems like to me you're out to get blood.
Chairman,
No matter what here. So.
Do I have an opportunity to read my questions, because that's all I'm looking to accomplish tonight?
Of course, sure.
Okay. Please proceed.
Okay. Do I assume that you're going to want to consider each one of these in terms of telling me whether you want to respond now, or are these all going to be deferred?
I believe we already discussed that with Jason, that we're going
To
to
defer.
refer those to.
Okay, then I will just present this addendum to the June 2nd report to close out what I need to say at this meeting.
Okay.
And given that in the meeting minutes, it will reflect what you just said, that you're deferring to Jason.
Yes.
I don't want to get into debates with anybody about details. It can't be productive for me at this juncture.
Understood.
Okay.
Yeah, that was actually June 4th, wasn't it?
Well, I put it, and I got it signed off on by Tricia on the 2nd. She wrote on it that it was received, but that it would be provided to the selectmen on the 4th.
Correct. We did all receive them.
Yeah.
I since gave Jason my copy and look over as well.
Yeah, I provided 3 copies and one for the town files.
That also.
Yeah. Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, if Mr. Patch is willing to answer one question for me, I do actually have one question, which will help me analyze his legal position. And so I'm gonna actually, if it's all right with you, I'm gonna ask it. I can't make him answer it, but.
I'm okay with it if Jeff is.
Sure. So one of the things that you, one of the cases you cited to in your dossier is Sandwich v. Quimby with a 128 NH 57 1986 citation. And I went on to LexisNexis, which is the legal search that I use, and that 128 NH 157 took me to a criminal case. And so if you have that case and you're willing to provide it with me, to me, I will research it, but I could not find it. So I do not know, from the citation, and I searched Sandwich v. Quimby, I searched Sandwich and Junkyard, Quimby and Junkyard, Google search, LexisNexis search, and I could not find it. And I'm pretty good at finding cases, so I don't
Sure.
know.
Yeah, you can possibly go to NewHampshire.gov and get into it that way, but I mean, like you said, you're familiar with researching it, so
Yeah.
maybe what I have in there will help you. It's not a full version of the case, but it is the relevancy and the citation.
Got it, fair enough. If when I
Are you
type the
referring
citation
to
in,
this document here, Jeff?
Yes.
actually, let me look at it now, because it may direct me to. And the reason I want to find it is because if that is a valid New Hampshire Supreme Court case, then I do, in my duty to the town, need to read it and advise them accordingly. If it supports your position, then I have to tell them. If I don't think it does, then I would share that with them. So that's why I want to make sure I have it.
Well, that's a 1986 case, and be aware that there is a 1922 case as well.
There could be an 18.
A 2022 case, I apologize.
I did find a 2010 and 22. The Lincoln case, by the way, was mine. The Lincoln Junkyard case was Hastings Law Office case, so I'm very familiar with that one.
Yep, I know you are, and why you should be.
What page is it? Just so that I,
There's some matrices, tables.
well, actually, because I was looking at the board, okay, Mr. Patch, so wasting everybody's time for me to look at this now. I'll look at it offline, and if I have questions, is it okay, Mr. Patch, if I communicate with you to get these questions answered so that I can share that information with the town, or would you rather me not communicate directly with you?
If you work locally, I'd be happy to set up a time to meet with you to go through this. I think a scheduled appointment probably would work the best.
Well, I understand that. The only difficulty is I don't necessarily want to have a scheduled appointment with you in the office where there's nothing in writing, since you're not necessarily currently adverse to the town, but you've sort of taken a position that they may be liable for something. So if I sit down and meet with you as a sort of opposing party, say, I put that in air quotes for the record, you could say I said something I didn't say. Not to say that I don't trust you, but that makes me uncomfortable, so I'd rather have communication be in writing. And it would be as simple as, here's one question I have, do you have an answer for it? So that it helps me.
Yeah.
If you don't want to do that, then I may not be able to answer your questions to
You
your
may not be
satisfaction.
able to, although, I feel like I've done a considerable amount of research in putting that document together. I feel like I don't know that you can take me serious until you absorb some of that information. I don't think we'll ever get to a point where there's a possibility of settling this outside of a legal framework unless you get to that point. And if you get to that point and you can identify all the specific conflicts that you feel deny the factual information that I present in that dossier, then just let me know that.
Well, I've done that, and I was prepared to answer those questions for you, but then you redirected it to say you only want your 4 specific questions as put in the document.
That's all I wanted to do in front of this.
Fair enough. So
this group.
what I can offer to the board is to put a memo together that more specifically answers his questions that you guys can review, we can discuss, and if you make the decision that you agree with that, we can present it to you, Mr. Rich. And then
Okay.
you've got definitive written answers that you can.
Do we have a timeline that we can agree to?
As and when.
I mean, I don't. I do it as soon as I get to it. This is as much as I do anything, and every now and then I get angry folks saying, "Why have you taken so long?" And I'd say, "Well, my to-do list today is 27 items." This board isn't meeting all the time, so
By next meeting, can we do that?
yeah.
Yeah, by next meeting,
A month from now?
correct.
I don't want to wait that long. I'm sorry, Jason.
What's the alternative?
Something that's more expedient.
Such as?
Like I said, I'd be willing to meet with you tomorrow in whatever forum that you want. Establish whatever trust level you need.
If we can forward you your email to him, and he can answer you that way, that's documented. Is that what you're concerned about?
No, I just don't want another month to go by. If, depending upon how some of these issues resolve themselves, if Tyler's license does protect him for a 160-day period for certain parts of his inventory, I don't want this clock to continue to tick and for Tyler to lose another 30 days while we're waiting to meet and resolve issues. Because then he has less and less time, depending upon the potential outcome, to find his own solutions.
Less and less time?
Less and less time, because it counts back. I documented on May 7th with pictures the establishment of what I defined as a junkyard based on the statutory definitions. I showed pictures to the board in that.
Trespass. That's what you did.
No, I don't think so, Tyler, but that's for
After
another.
hours on a public place, that's trespassing. Yes, it is. And I've trespassed you, by the way. So, come on down again. See how that goes.
So every,
Is that you're trying to threaten me, Tyler,
Nope.
for
Making
trespassing
Legal,
signs
legal action
that
for being
never
aware.
existed?
Sneaking down
when
through
those
the woods.
pictures?
Sneaking
well, how
down
do
through
you
the
take the
woods.
pictures?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how I took them.
Or
It's
they
just,
It does, I asked the question.
Yeah.
I'm not responding to
Alright.
questions from the
All right, certainly.
from the group here. This is what I said. It's just going to
Order.
devolve.
We're off course.
Certainly, Jeff, some of the perspectives that you gave us in those photos, unless you took them by a drone, you were on his property.
On his property, yes. Was it posted? No. And
After
that's
hours
all
on
I'll
a
say
public
about
place.
it.
Why don't you look at that RSA?
That's all I'm going to say.
Business hours are 9 to 5. You go out of that, that's trespassing.
Tyler,
Look up
the
that
pictures
RSA.
that I
Look up
need,
that RSA.
and this is the last I'll say about it, the pictures that I need from what I've submitted
You're
today,
good at
you
RSA.
can disclose all the ones that you feel were taken on your property. There's plenty of them taken from the street. That's not going to change this. That's why I don't want to argue about it.
Still trespassing.
Okay.
That's a small victory, Tyler.
We're off task.
I tried to prevent this.
Needs to be said.
It's your neck. Tyler, how do you feel? Do you want to wait and give Jason a month to analyze this and see what's going on here?
I asked him what his solution was, and he doesn't want to tell us.
Town has a solution. I mean, they're
What's that, shut me
potentially
down?
considerate. Okay. I'm gonna say that I came to accomplish what I accomplished, and I'm fine with that. If the meeting's gonna reflect that, Jason, you're gonna send me an email so that we can correspond and get a path forward. I'd like that to happen in 2 weeks. I don't want to wait a whole month for that to happen, because it's going to be a considerable delay to getting through that process.
Well, that's on Jason. I can't speak for him, but if we can accomplish that, we will.
I'll do as fast as I can. I don't want to get into my business and do TMI, but I got 2 medical appointments next week, one for neurology, which obviously is scary as hell for me. It's not a brain thing, so I'm still physically functioning fine. So I will have a little bit of delay with some of those things. But I will make my goal to get something to the town in 2 weeks.
We'll
so
be
that
as
they can
accommodating as we
authorize
can be for
me
you,
to get
Jeff.
it to you.
Okay.
Yeah, I just say, I'll get past the point though where either others become involved because we're a small town. And I had no sooner been in here the last time than Tyler and I were having a conversation on the deck of my home residence about what was going on. So that means that the telephone line worked from the night before to him coming over to the house. I understand it's a small town, and the issue there is that the broader this gets exposed, the more parties that become involved, the more difficult it is to control. And that includes, like I said, the state and federal agencies that are involved of particular concern, other abutters, associations, and so on and so forth. And I think you would probably all acknowledge that that's true.
I guess I would just say, and the board might not like me saying this, that to me sounds an equal amount of a threat to the town as you have just accused Mr. Fox of making
Pretty
towards
much.
you.
I'd
You've
say it's more than
essentially
equal.
threatened the town to cause them to face financial strain because of your concern. I don't think that is productive, and I apologize to the town if that was inappropriate for me to say.
No, absolutely not.
However, even, so from my perspective, you may have some validity in some of the actions that may be going on there. Even if that is true, which I'm not saying definitively, what I think I can say definitively to you is, based on my review of the statutes, and I know you would disagree with this, it would not be the town to enforce those things. It would, in fact, be a different entity like the state, which puts you in that place where you've threatened to be, which is
Except for
more
the junkyard aspects.
Yes,
Okay.
both 23691 and 236-112 exempt dealers, which Tyler's telling the town, and the town is telling me, that Mr. Cox has a license. If he does, he is exempt from being a junkyard. That does not mean he can keep junk on a dealer. So if he's got stuff that the statute considers junk, he may have to remove it, but that still wouldn't bring it within the
Past
town's.
160 days.
Right, but that still wouldn't bring it
If
within
he
the
has
town.
just 2 vehicles, then
No.
meet that criteria, it's a junkyard.
Nothing in the RSA that
Yes,
says anyway.
well, he's right, it is a junkyard. That would make it a junkyard, except in both of the definitional statutes, 23691 and 236-112, it exempts motor vehicle dealers from the definition of junkyard. So he's exempt from that. It doesn't mean he can keep them, that's a different issue, and that would be potentially a state enforcement issue. I'm not here to answer that question because I haven't delved into that. If I felt that to be the case, I would tell the town, and the town could tell Mr. Cox that, hey, though we can't enforce it, you may want to double check with the state so you're not in trouble with the state. And I think that's fair. But as far as the town's, and the statute, I'll just give it to you.
And my understanding is it's the 2-vehicle rule is for private residences, private ownership.
Yes, because you can be a junkyard without being a business junkyard.
Right.
That's what the Lincoln case was about. Mr. Chenard was not operating a commercial junkyard. However, the Grafton County Superior Court, upheld by the New Hampshire Supreme Court, said he did meet the definition of a junkyard. But in any event, the one statute I want to draw your attention to, wherever I put it here, just so that you don't think I'm totally making stuff up here, is 236.
126, is that what you're looking
No, it's the enforcement statute. It might be 39 or 79, but it's within there, and I have it here somewhere. Says that for enforcement, the town may initiate proceeding. They don't have to, so the statute doesn't bind them to it. Also says that a private individual or the AG could. So not to encourage you to do something that would be adverse to Mr. Cox's interest, but if you felt strongly enough about it, you could take individual action, or you could go to the state. I don't know if they would agree with you, or if they would agree with Mr. Cox. I represent the town, and so I am here basically to say, through my review, is my opinion that the town is not on the hook for the enforcement of it, even if they are violations or infringement. I will give you that more in writing with citations and give that to the town so you can vet it and double check it. Happy to do that so that you say, yeah, you're right, or no, I've looked at what you said and I think you're full of it. That's fine, I won't be offended. Because at the end of the day, every single time I'm involved in something, somebody's telling me I'm wrong. And sometimes I am.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, but all I can do is review the facts, review the law,
Yep.
and give my best
All right.
opinion. So,
Very
that, I think that concludes my thoughts that I can share with you in a productive manner tonight. But I will give you more information, I promise.
Very good. Do you have my contact information, or can you get it from the town?
If the town's got it, I can get it from them.
I will certainly forward it to him, Jeff.
All right. Just, I shouldn't have to come down my driveway every day and see cars spread across a depression. I shouldn't have to watch stormwater gather on my side of the road, get centralized through culverts and go across that property. And I shouldn't have to ignore my background, which is pretty entrenched in environmental. For over 27 years, I did this. So I'm going to stand by what I've said, and I just hope that you do take me serious.
I certainly do. Just one final point. Even if Tyler had a junkyard license, which we enforced, and he practiced best business practices as directed by the EPA, all that stuff still stays there. The rainwater still goes where it goes. What's the difference? And it's got an 8-foot fence, which you're gonna be able to see over anyway.
Now, the statutes say what the protections are, and they vary depending if you're talking about aesthetics, if you're talking about runoff,
I'm talking about
if you're
aesthetics,
talking
and I'm
about
talking
operations
runoff.
day to day, how he drains oil, where that oil drains to, if you're talking about the tires, or if you're talking about any of the junk that was there, and the contaminants that can hit the soil, and when that runoff hits it, where they go, I think I've covered that. I've given you pictures of where I believe,
You're evading the question, sir.
I
'cause-
don't think,
Yes, you are, because I asked you if he has the license, we provide him, and this all goes through, and he does the best business practices as directed by the EPA pamphlet that they put out,
I'll
which
ref-
he has,
yeah.
and he does practice those, he said already. What's the difference? Where
I
does it
refer you
pass?
to what I was looking for as an off-ramp. And Jason, I don't feel like I should have to encapsulate something that I spent a lot of time putting together in defining a solution. That
So,
solution's there.
Okay, I'm asking you, sir,
If you
all
want
this
to read that
goes through.
solution out, that's up to you.
all this goes through, and you get everything you want, everything is still in place, and the water still goes where it goes. Where are we?
I'd like to hear your answers to the questions that I've asked. I'd like you to consider the off-ramp and the plan that specifically stipulates all of the actions that you're asking me about, that you want me to recall off the top of my head when I've written it down and it's included.
Your interpretation
In the
of those
document.
RSAs is incorrect, sir. I'm sorry.
Okay,
We don't have to. Jason will be in touch with you.
it's entirely your decision. I came here initially to try to point out a liability for the town. I do have standing. I said I recognize that. I was looking to come up with a solution that would be satisfactory to everybody outside of a legal framework. And I stand by that.
We appreciate your concerns, we do, but I'm just not sure what we accomplished by going through all this, and everything is still in place. There's a fence there, sure. The vehicles are still all there, and like I said, the water still goes where it goes.
Did you happen to see the site review checklist that I put together in the report?
I did.
Did you think that that might be appropriate to basically establish a baseline for that site so that we don't have to revisit this
He has all that.
every year
He has that all documented.
as the trees fall and the view becomes more depressing for me all the time? I'm sure if I established this across from your driveway, you'd feel great about it. Maybe you would, I don't know. That's entirely your preference. I know plenty of places driving along Chatham that I'd hate to see it, and one of them is in front of my house.
Well, sir, an 8-foot
Those are
fence-
legitimate, valid concerns.
An 8-foot fence is not gonna change what you look at.
I don't think that's discretionary. That's something that You just have to review the statutes and, like you've said, you've come up with your own determinations
Yeah, I
about
think we
those.
should do some more research, so.
Okay. Well, Jeff.
I don't want to establish bad will here, so
Yeah.
putting me on the defensive isn't going to help anything.
Not putting you on the defensive, simply asking questions.
If I ask you a question, it's not to put you on the defensive. It's for you to give you the opportunity to convince me that my interpretation is
Yeah,
wrong.
but this isn't the forum for it, and that's what I acknowledged up front. I think we've agreed on how we can correspond, and so I don't think that there will be issues doing that. So,
Yeah, you'll get something from me.
okay,
We'll be in touch. Thank
very
you,
good.
Jeff. Have a good evening.
Thank you for your time.